So I'm going to try to quickly review for you guys how to make a slab plate, a slab cup, and a slab bowl. And if I go too fast, remember you can go back and rewatch it or pause it or whatever you need to. So it's going to feel a little fast just to keep the recording short, but you can always go back and review it, and of course email me with questions if you have them. So you're going to need to start out with a slab. It can be white clay or red clay. It doesn't matter to me. If you want to think ahead to glazing, white clay is going to give you brighter colors with your glaze. Red clay is going to give you more earth tone colors, if that weighs into your decision. And you're going to want to run a couple slabs through the slab roller, set at either a 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch. I wouldn't go much thicker than that. The 1/4 inch is a really good kind of mid-size dish. 3/8 if you want like a heftier one. So I run it through the slab roller, and then my first requirement is that I need to have texture on here. So just like yesterday, I can either use my tool to create texture, whether that's carving or pressing or whatever the deal is, but I can use my tool to create texture. Or if you guys want to grab the stamps that are in my back room in the big blue closet, there's a drawer that says stamps, and you can pull that out and you can use them. There's stamps, and there's texture mats that you would use a rolling pin to roll. You can use either of them, but you need to be really thorough in sanitizing them in between. If you use one and then somebody else wants to use it, make sure you're cleaning those tools in between. Okay, and so I'm going to start out with my tray. I'm just adding some texture that I think I might want to my tray. And once I'm happy with my texture, I can pause. If I make a texture I don't like, or if I have stuff I want to clean up, I can use a rib and some water to kind of smooth out that slab. Okay, and then I'm going to use either, either a plate from up front by the chalkboard where all the dishes are, or I could use a wood block if I want to make a little square tray. There are wood blocks in the back, on the back counter, in the cupboard that says like pencils and markers and crayons and tools. If you open that up, there's going to be a box of wood blocks in there, and you could use wood blocks too. So I'm going to show you how to do it with wood block, but it's the same process for a plate if you use a plate from up front if I'm making a tray. Like I said in my directions, before you press, so we're doing press molds to build our slab pieces. Before you press your slab onto your mold, whether it's a plate or a block, you need to put a paper towel in between. Otherwise, it's going to dry, it's going to crack, and you'll be very sad tomorrow or Thursday when you come back because your piece will be wrecked. Okay, so I'm going to, I think I want to have this texture on the inside of my tray, so I need to put it face down. So I'm going to put my paper towel down on top of my block, and then I'm taking my slab texture side down because I want the texture on the inside. I'm going to lay that slab on top of my block, get it kind of lined out. I can press it gently. You do not need it to be formed like airtight to your plate or your block. Okay, if it's airtight, it'll crack and fall off. So just gently, so it's just slumped over it. That's why they get the name slump mold, because it's slumped over it. And then I can cut off my extra around the sides, as tall or as shallow as I want that to be. It doesn't have to be totally perfect today, but you want it close so you don't have too many corrections to make on Thursday. Okay, and I'm going to set that to the side. If I wanted to add little feet or like a decorative ring on the bottom, I can do that, but I want to save that for Thursday. I just want this to set up. Okay, so this would go on my tray to dry, covered lightly until Thursday. Now if I want to work on my bowl, again, I can grab a little bowl from up front. With your bowls, you can slump on the outside of them to make a bigger, wider, more open bowl, or you can slump on the inside of them to make a narrower, like a tinier, like cup-shaped bowl. Same idea. I've got my slab. The slab maybe needs to be just a little bit bigger. I don't have a slab roller, so I have to do everything by hand here. Roll this out a little bit more. I think that should be big enough now. So I've got my slab. Again, I can stamp into it. I can use my tools. I can roll those texture mats into it. So I've got a piece of lace here that's going to work just like the texture mats work. The texture mats are like either the clear stencils or the kind of burnt orange colored mats, big stamp mats. Those are all texture mats. And to get those textures, I need to lay either the stencil or the mat, or I think there might be lace in there, on my clay, and then just gently roll over it with the rolling pin. The rolling pins are on the cart, the tool cart, back in the ceramics room, and then I can gently pull it off, and I've got that texture there. I like that. I think maybe I'm going to put just a little bit more of these stamps here, just to make it more interesting again. And this time I want my texture on the outside of my bowl instead of the inside like on my tray. So when I'm looking at my bowl, my inside of my bowl will be clear and the outside of my bowl will have this texture on it. And so I'm going to actually cut this to size beforehand. I think I'm going to do kind of a ruffly bowl like this, scalloped one. So that's what I want my bowl to look like. I want this texture to go on the outside, so I'm going to turn it face down so I can keep track of what I'm doing. And then again, before I put my slab into the slump mold, I need to put a paper towel in there so it doesn't stick. And then, oops, I'm going to fold this paper towel in half. There we go. I'm going to ease this down inside that bowl. I don't want to press too hard. I want to crack my slab or force it. I have to kind of let, if I'm going inside the bowl like this instead of on the outside like we did last time, if I'm going inside something, I have to kind of let this air out that's making a bubble underneath it. And I think I want my edges all kind of roughly like this. Maybe it'll be like a little ring bowl or something. Okay, and then I've got a clear inside. I've got texture on the outside of my bowl, and I can just let this go inside of my shelf and let that set for Thursday. And then the last thing I need to work on is a slab cup. Oops, almost knocked my tripod over. Okay, and so for my slab cup, I'm going to need a big long slab. That's going to be the side of my cup. And then I'm going to need a smaller slab. That'll be the base of my cup, just like how we made a base for our coil pots. You can decide, excuse me, hiccups. You can decide if you want your cup to be square or round or whatever shape you want it to be. Do try to make it a cup that you can actually drink out of, so none of the tiny little like 2-ounce cups. Let's try to shoot for like 4 ounces or bigger. And just like we started out with our coil pots, we need to cut our base shape. I'm going to make a little square cup. Or I guess he's going to be kind of rectangle. That's small. Let's try again. A little bit bigger square cup. There we go. Fantastic. And so this is the base, the bottom of my cup. And just like my coil pot, I'm going to either attach around the outside here or right along this top edge here. You can choose where. That's where my slab's going to go. I'm going to want to check and make sure my slab is long enough before I start attaching it. And mine is just barely. If it wasn't long enough, I'd need to go back and roll a new one. But this one's going to work just fine. I checked it already. And again, before I can assemble these, I need to add any texture that I want. So if I want texture, I wouldn't usually suggest putting texture on the inside of your cups. I would put your texture on the outside of your cups. So like this would be like the bottom of my cup could have this neat texture here. And then I think I'm going to use something kind of similar in a pattern on the outside of my cup here. And maybe I'll just do some decorative lines in between there. Whoops. All right. And then I'm going to want, this side's cut pretty straight. I'm going to actually want to cut the top edge of my cup straight too right now, because it's really hard to do later once it's attached. So I want both sides straight before I go and attach it to my base. And then just like coil pots, I need to scratch up either the top or the sides of my base. I'm going to attach on the side this time, just because I think it's a little bit easier personally. Excuse me. All the way around the side I'm going to scratch up. This is the outside of my cup, so I need to turn this over. Here's the inside, and I'm going to scratch up all the way along the bottom edge. Slip in both places. Anytime attaching something, I need to have slip. Slip around the base. Excuse me. Alright, and then I'm going to start to press my base around the sides here, and I'm choosing to have my cup kind of meet, have the seam meet in the center here. I would suggest if you're making something square or something with corners, I would make your seam not at the corner, because it makes it like double weak. I would make your seam on one of the edges. I'm sorry, down one of the centers. If you have a round cup, you don't need to worry about it, because it's circle, there is no edge. Alright, and then the thing that would be different than our coil pots last time is we've got this edge of my cup here that's going to overlap like that. And you can do it one of two ways. You can cut these to the exact same size and make a nice clean straight seam where there wouldn't be any overlap like this. You would cut these two to the same, so that they meet exactly, and you could slip and score them together. Or you can do the overlap like I'm doing right now. And so I'm just going to score up this space that's going to overlap here. Get those scratched up. And then of course I need slip in both. I'm just going to use a sponge because it works faster. And then again I need to press and hold them. If I'm attaching something big and chunky like this, I usually try to do something kind of decorative with the attachment so that it doesn't look like a big ugly attachment. I try to make some sort of like pattern with my fingerprints or something. Okay, and then I can kind of gently reshape my cup. I don't want to futz with it too much today because it needs time to set up. What I do need to do today that is different than before is I need to add a support coil inside here. And so a support coil is exactly what it sounds like. It's a coil I'm going to make and attach that supports the seams or the attachments inside my cup. So that means I'm going to run a coil all along that bottom edge, that base where I attached. And because I did an overlap here, I don't need a support coil on the vertical. But if you did not do an overlap and you did a clean join, then you would need to run a support coil along that clean join. Okay, and so you just make a super tiny coil. This can be way smaller than your pinky. It does not need to be pinky size because this is just for support. It's like running a tiny bead of like caulking or glue inside there. And you want to use your skewer to kind of rough up inside there as best you can, just along the seam. Excuse me. Then go ahead and rough up your support coil. A lot of times I'll just dip mine in my slip cup, but you can use a paintbrush if you want. And then you'll want to get that support coil ran along the bottom edge down there all the way around. I would need a second one to get it all the way around. And smush it in with my fingers as best I can. If I can't reach my fingers down in there because my cup is too narrow, then I could use something like the back side or even the front side of my paintbrush, my slip brush, to kind of smooth that in. And I would do that on all four sides. I've only done two sides right now, but you guys are going to do it on all four sides. And then on your vertical seam, if your vertical seam isn't overlapped. If it's overlapped, I don't need one. All right, and then that's pretty much all I'm going to do with my cup for today. I know you guys might be excited to add handles to them today, but we need to let them set up. So that will need to wait till Thursday. So make sure you get a support coil all the way around the bottom, all the way around the vertical if you need it. And then I'm just going to let this cup sit. If I'm making something like a square, I can reshape it a little bit today. Even if it's round, I can reshape that roundness so that it looks pretty well set. And then same as my other two slab pieces, I'm going to put this on my shelf and let it set up for Thursday. Make sure that you gently wrap all of them so that they do have a little bit of like moisture in them still on Thursday when we come. I will try to set up a Google Meets and do check-ins with you guys on Thursday. And if you have any questions before then, just let me know.